Guna-atmakani, attached to the qualities. Indriyani, the senses. Bhuta-adi, material ego. Prabhava, influenced by. Guna, the modes of material nature. Mana, the mind. Sarva, all. Vikara, affection, happiness and distress. Atma, form. Buddhi, intelligence. Vijnana, deliberation. Rupani, featuring. Translation. The sense organs are attached to the modes of material nature, and the modes of material nature are products of the false ego. The mind is subjected to all kinds of material experiences, happiness and distress, and the intelligence is the feature of the mind's deliberation. Purport. Illusion by the material nature, the living entity identifies with false ego. More clearly, when the living entity is entrapped by the material body, he at once identifies with bodily relationships, forgetting his own identity as spirit soul. This false ego associates with different modes of material nature, and thus the senses become attached to the modes of material nature. Mind is the instrument for feeling different material experiences, but intelligence is deliberative and can change everything for the better. The intelligent person, therefore, can attain salvation from the illusion of material existence by proper use of intelligence. An intelligent person can detect the awkward position of material existence and thus begin to inquire as to what he is, why he is subjected to different kinds of miseries, and how to get rid of all miseries. And thus, by good association, an advanced intelligent person can turn towards the better life of self-realization. It is advised, therefore, that an intelligent person associate with the great sages and saints who are on the path to salvation. By such association, one can receive instructions which are able to slacken the conditioned soul's passion for matter. And thus, the intelligent man gradually gets rid of the illusion of matter and false ego, and is promoted to the real life of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Om Jnana-Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Generally in this world, people like promotions. You want to be promoted because, generally speaking, that's supposed to mean a better station in life, better facilities in life, better resources. Of course, sometimes in the working world, you don't want to be promoted because promotion means more responsibilities, more headaches. So you'd rather stay at the middle level. Sometimes devotees, they have to resist pushing at their workplace. Don't you want to be promoted? You should be striving to be top management. That's the nature of material existence. Rajaguna, mode of passion. You always have to increase. More. Never be satisfied. So the whole consumer society is based on the fact you have to move on. And that's called progress. Increase your title. Increase your money. Increase your social prestige. You can't stay put. That's considered very barbaric. Very primitive, if you just stay in your current station. So sometimes our devotees in the working world, they get this pressure. Don't you want to move up? We like you, you're doing good, you're steady, you're responsible, but you should be thinking how to go to the higher levels. And then, often, depending on the situation, our devotees have to maneuver in it. I'm fine where I am. As you say, I'm doing a good job at my current middle level. Don't you need good middle level people? Without the good middle, then what is the use of the top? Okay, you're one of those. All right. So, generally though, promotion is eagerly sought after. Here, we find that an intelligent person can gradually get rid of the illusion of matter and false ego and be promoted to the real life. Now, what is the real life? In other words, what we consider the real world is a perversion. Real life means eternity, knowledge, and bliss. That is the standard by which we should judge our situation. Not that we consider material existence to be normal and we look at the bhakti life as, oh, it's different. It's special. No. The bhakti life is the normal thing. Material life, material existence, that is the exceptional case. That's the strange thing. I remember once when I was filing Srila Prabhupada's correspondence in Los Angeles, I saw a letter, an unfortunate devotee wrote Srila Prabhupada. I think it's now time for me to drop my spiritual practices and go back to normal life. And Srila Prabhupada responded, of course, your normal life is Krishna consciousness. So through proper execution of the bhakti process, our worldview changes. We're upside down now, taking the material reality to be so important. It's like we're walking on our heads with the feet up in the air. The upside down world we consider to be right side up. But as we chant Hare Krishna, as we associate with devotees, we start to understand what is right side up. It takes a while. Associating with devotees means to associate with the Shravanam Kirtanam process, hearing and chanting about Krishna. So, it's not simply about socializing in an ordinary sense. Although human beings have their social needs, there's no doubt about that. Everyone should have friends in bhakti. Sometimes it takes an effort to have friends in bhakti because the friendships in bhakti are not primarily based on particular body, ethnicity, or age. Friendships in bhakti are on the spiritual platform to varying degrees. At least the spiritual platform should be the main consideration. Not that, oh, you are from the same part of the world as me, you are from the same caste as me. Friendship in bhakti is all about inspiration to engage in Krishna's service. And discussing what are the impediments to devotional service and what are the accelerators of devotional service. That is friendship. That friendship can go on within the home. It can go on in the wider community of devotees. So let us remember that associating with devotees means to associate with the process of hearing and chanting about Krishna. Whether it's a husband and wife friendship, or friendship with devotees in the ashram, or in the wider community, always remember the basis is hearing and chanting about Krishna. Our immersion in material life is based on false ego. as Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, illusion by the material nature, the living entity identifies with false ego. More clearly, when the living entity is entrapped by the material body. He at once identifies with the bodily relationships, forgetting his own identity as spirit soul. This false ego associates with different modes of material nature, and thus the senses become attached to the modes of material nature. Why is it that the sense objects of the material world look attractive? It's the false ego that's doing that. Because of the false ego, as Krishna says in Bhaktivedanta, Ahamkara Vamutatma. Driven by that false ego, that ahamkara, you become such a fool. Not an ordinary fool, but a super fool. Vimuta. Driven by that false ego, you look at the material world as full of objects meant for your gratification, grossly or subtly. So, in other words, try to see that because the false ego is driving you, you see in a particular way. So, if you can purify the false ego, your vision will change. That is the amazing scientific experience of Bhakti. Your vision changes. And this change of vision is very difficult. It's impossible for someone outside the Bhakti school to understand. Krishna himself explains that in the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. What is night for one is day for the other, and vice versa. Because in Bhakti, the false ego is being purified, what you see is different. There's a popular saying, what you see is what you get. There's a deep meaning to that. What you see is based on your false ego. What you get, then, is based on what you see, which is based on the false ego. So when your false ego is driving, when it's in the driver's seat, you can understand what happens. You look at the whole world in a certain way. What is out there for me? What will be mine? And not only do you identify with the body as a self, but you identify with other bodies that are in relation to your body or that are favorable to your body. Those become the main factors of your existence. You're with my body, or you're related to my body. You're doing good things for my body. You don't think how many bodies you've taken on and shedded. You don't think about that. What is it that makes the current bodily relations seem so significant? That is because of investment in material nature by the false ego. I wonder how many of you feel entrapped by the material body. Prabhupada uses that phrase. When the living entity is entrapped by the material body. We feel entrapped by the material body. This body feels, well, right now it feels healthy and good, right? It feels like the body has possibilities, yes? There are, of course, exceptional cases of persons who are sick. There are exceptional cases of persons who have major bodily problems, even in their 20s. But we all know that won't happen to us, right? That happens to other persons. What gives us this optimism about the body? I'm in this body. Things are pretty good right now. I see good possibilities for my body. And I see good possibilities for things in relation to my body. What inspires this? It's the false ego. This false ego motivates us to invest in material nature. Just like someone invests in property or invests in business. You invest in material nature and you expect returns. The returns that you expect are various gratifications of your mind and senses. And what happens when you feel that you've worked very hard, but you're not getting enough appreciation, you're not getting enough honor, you're not getting enough pleasure in return? What happens? Psychologists call it a gratification crisis. You have invested mightily in material nature, and you're not getting the returns. Therefore, this breakdown. This is what Arjuna is thinking in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. He's telling Krishna. Because by Krishna's arrangement, Arjuna is playing the part of someone who's overwhelmed by the circumstances of material nature due to false identification. Krishna, how is any good going to come out of fighting this battle? This situation that I've invested in, it's not working out. I look and I see on both sides of the battlefield friends, relatives, former teachers and their students. This is not working out. My investment in bodily kin, my investment in society is not properly rewarding me. Look at the situation. So, Arjuna is showing you what a gratification crisis is all about. He tells Krishna, I don't see how any good can come from this situation. If we win, we lose. If we lose, we lose. And then he says that even if I obtain unrivaled power on earth, or even if I obtain the might of a demigod in the heavenly planets, still that won't drive away my grief. So what does Arjuna mean when he says that? You have to understand the full impact. When he says, even if I obtain unrivaled power on earth, who has that these days? Even if I attain might like the demigods in the heavenly planets, certainly no one has that. Still, my problems won't be solved. So what is the significance of that? It means no material solution will help your existence. That's the full impact of what Arjuna is saying. You can't win materially. So if you take Bhagavad Gita straight, without dilution, if you let Bhagavad Gita enter your intelligence, enter your heart, you'll start to see differently. By the mercy of Arjuna coming through Prabhupada, you'll begin to see that it is my false ego that is dragging me on in material existence. You think that you're in control. You are the Prabhu, the master of your body. To a tiny extent, that is true. How is that? How are you the master, the Ishwar? Only in this sense, that since you have jumped into material nature, into the pool of material existence, according to your proclivities, according to your attitudes, you get your next body. So in that limited sense, you are Ishwar, you're the controller. You're the Prabhu of your life. You can, within the prison of material existence, you can determine what cell you're going to get. Congratulations. Such scope, such freedom, such independence. You can determine what quality of cell you'll get in the prison. But with the material use of that tiny controlling ability, you cannot get out of it. You cannot get out of prison. You cannot get out of material existence. When I'm speaking in South Africa, I often explain what the apartheid prison system was like. Because there, the national icon, of course, is Nelson Mandela. So I tell the people what the prison system was like during the time the freedom fighters were imprisoned. According to your ethnicity, you got a certain diet. If you're white, you got standard prison rations. If you're Indian, you got less. If you're African, much less. And then there were gradations in the prison. Class D, Class C, Class B, Class A. According to how submissive and humble you were to the prison guards. So at first, Nelson Mandela explained that at first, he was older, but they were also imprisoned with some young radicals who just didn't want to cooperate with the prison staff at all. They were going to show them that we will totally not submit, even if you kill us, we don't care. We will not acknowledge you. So Nelson Mandela was telling him, look, you guys got to cool down, but you got to be practical. You may be here for a while. Of course, in this case, 27 years. So, look, you've got to be strategic and maneuver. Our goal is not to enjoy prison life. Our goal is so-called freedom outside the prison, to lead the freedom movement. But now we are in prison. So while keeping your vision on the goal, you have to maneuver so that your life in prison is as bearable as possible. So under his guidance, they elevated their status from Class D prisoner, Class C, Class A. Okay. But they never thought, this is life. I'm a Class A prisoner now. No, even while they were in prison, they had contact with the outside world, and they were living just for the so-called liberation in the outside world. They were making plans, even within prison, how to form the government once freedom comes. So how much are we focused on being a Class A prisoner? We need to hear Srimad Bhagavatam because it liberates us from material attachment, and that is our problem. And that material attachment is driven by the false ego because of our vision, looking out and seeing potential objects of gratification. Potential objects of possession, potential circumstances that will work out for us. And not only us, we're charitable, we're generous, and for persons who we like. Persons who look like our body, related to our body, or just persons who we can relate to. What will get at the root of this false ego problem? This is what you have to think about. What is a process so powerful that it can purify this false ego that gets us in so much trouble? This is the super excellence of the bhakti science. By engaging in Krishna's service, your false ego becomes purified, so much so that your real ego starts to take over your life. We may feel a little fearful that what will become of me if my false ego is reduced? How will I exist? How will I relate to others? But as we progress in bhakti, we get more and more confidence that we have a real ego, and that the real ego will become revived and reassert itself. That is the confidence that pushes us on in bhakti. You experience the reassertion of the real ego. What is the real ego? Jivera Swarupoy, Krishnera Nityadas. As Lord Chaitanya explained to Sanatana Goswami. You are eternally the servant of Krishna. That is the real ego. So when you have devotional service, you have an opportunity to be truly egotistical. When the spirit soul engages in Krishna's service, that is natural expression, that is normal expression. Let's talk about the mind. In the verse we see, the mind is subjected to all kinds of material experiences, happiness and distress. So just see how your mind takes you through the day and night. All sorts of things are running in and out. All sorts of impressions, emotions, feelings, perceptions. What is going to govern that mind with its kaleidoscope of perceptions and feelings and impressions? There should be intelligence. And that intelligence is beyond, it should be beyond happiness and distress. But we, in a consumer society especially, we take happiness and distress to be fundamental, to be very substantial entities. When you're materially happy, oh, this is major. And when you're materially distressed, oh, what a catastrophe. So your whole material life becomes just a process of your bouncing back and forth between happiness and distress. And people call that life. They call that the normal life, the normal world. You're supposed to do a calculation about your life. As you reminisce, as you look back upon your teenage years, or your 20s, or 30s, or 40s, you're supposed to do an analysis. How much was I happy and how much was I distressed? And if, as you're dying, you can look back and say, well, I had more happiness than distress, then supposedly you can die in peace. That's as good as it gets. I accomplished a lot of things. I was relevant. I was significant. I've done things that people will remember me. Now I can die in peace. No one dies in peace. Because the process of interacting with material happiness and distress makes you attached. And when there's attachment, there can't be any peace. You don't want to leave your attachments. You may say, oh, I'm detached, now I can die in peace. But the hooks of material nature are in you. And you have no idea where you're going. Let us not underestimate the power of bodily attachment. And also, let us not underestimate the power of the bhakti process to detach you from the body. We welcome that. We're not afraid of that. We want the real ego to reassert itself. So the intelligence is supposed to be above the mind, sorting out all the impressions that come to the mind. The intelligence is supposed to give you the ability to discriminate. In other words, you're not supposed to be ruled by your mind. The intelligence is the next door neighbor to the soul. Those of you who've read Bhagavad Gita, you know that. Krishna explains that himself. Higher than the mind is the intelligence. Higher than intelligence is the Atma, the spirit soul. Lowest are the sense objects. But the way we live life today, the so-called normal way of life, the sense objects are on top. They're dominant. And they enslave the mind. Where's the intelligence, the ability to discriminate? No. The intelligence is the servant of the mind and the sense objects. So this is why you feel sometimes uneasy in your bhakti lifestyle. You feel like you're under attack. You feel like you're bombarded by all kinds of external stimuli. Because you're living in a society that doesn't value real intelligence. When we say real intelligence, we're not talking about what you supposedly show when you go to the uni or something like that. No, we're talking about the ability to discriminate. And the way life is lived today strips you of any ability to discriminate. In a real way. What do people call discrimination today? Oh, I know where to get something cheaper. That's discrimination. I know where a better restaurant is. Oh, wonderful intelligence. I know how to get a better financial deal. People value that kind of so-called discrimination. I can give you advice who will make a better sense object for you. We don't consider that discrimination at all. Real discrimination helps you get out of the prison of material existence. Not, it simply focuses on helping you to arrange your prison cell better. So we have a different standard of what is intelligence. At the same time, let us be mindful of this gratification crisis. A so-called feeling of emptiness in you, produced by your feeling that I have worked hard. I've done the hard yards. What's the Aussie term? The hard yaka. I don't know that. I've done the hard yaka. But no one knows. I haven't gotten any recognition. No one cares. Oh, they don't care enough. If they do care, it's not enough. This goes on at the workplace, it goes on at the home. Sometimes it even happens amidst a society of devotees. Of course, we want to appreciate devotees, and that is a wonderful activity to show appreciation for devotees. At the same time, we shouldn't crave for appreciation. Even when it comes to attention from the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada taught us that a disciple should not crave attention. You take what you get as Krishna's mercy. The gratification crisis is based on false ego, in which I know my needs. Humility means to understand that it'll take me a while to become aware of my real needs. It'll take me a while to understand my real identity as Krishna's servant. It'll take me a while to be able to function in reality. Always thinking how to give pleasure to Krishna. That goal may seem so far away to you, but it is the real career goal. And if you keep your mind fixed on that goal, you will see you're making progress. The Acharyas explain that this is the amazing thing about the bhakti process. Even in the neophyte stage of executing the bhakti processes, you can see the ultimate goal. You have not yet attained the ultimate goal, but you can see it. You can see the destination down the road. And as you progress in bhakti, even though you're a beginner, even though you're just a neophyte, you see signs along the way. I'm getting closer. So it's not that simply you're going to be laboring under a load of religious belief. All right, I've taken on the Bhagavad Gita beliefs, and the more beliefs that I take on, the more spiritual I'll be. What Krishna is giving in Bhagavad Gita are instructions, and if you follow them, you begin to have your spiritual life verified. If there's a problem in the verification, it means we need to address our bhakti performance. Rather than go into a tailspin. Oh, what's happening? Gratification crisis. Amongst the devotees, I don't get enough gratification, but the material world will give all that to me. How can we accelerate the process of reviving our real ego? It is by association. in this purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, it is advised, therefore, that an intelligent person associate with the great sages and saints who are on the path of salvation. By such association, one can receive instructions which are able to slacken the conditioned soul's attachment for matter. So in other words, association with great sages leads to instructions. And those instructions lead to decreasing your false ego and reviving your real ego. So this is a very dynamic process we're involved with. If you allow it to work on you, because of our false ego, we're afraid I might lose something crucial. I might lose my identity. This is all mental. You see, the mind is so addicted to the flow of happiness and distress. It's embarrassing how addicted the mind is. That coming and going of happiness and distress. That's me. This is why Krishna says to Arjuna, Matra spashas tu konteya, shitoshna shukadukada. This happiness and distress comes and goes, like the seasons. You live in Melbourne, you're used to the weather changing. The rain and the wind comes and goes. The sunshine comes and goes. You're all used to it, right? Even if you're from other parts of the world. Even if you're from South India, you become accustomed to Melbourne and its weather. Why can't we become accustomed to the coming and going of happiness and distress and not take it seriously? You can only do that when you have a higher vantage point. And that's what devotional service gives you. A higher vantage point. You're not mental. To be on the mental platform means to be besieged by happiness and distress and take it so seriously. Proper execution of bhakti puts you on the spiritual platform of real ego, and then you realize, wow, the weather, happiness and distress, it's external to me. What drives the flow of material happiness and distress? Time. Kalayana sarvatra, kabira lamasa. Narratively explains it yesterday. It is the movement of time that is bringing to you your karmic reactions of happiness and distress. As I often explain, time is not just tick-tick on your clock or the numbers changing on your digital watch. Time is a dynamic conveyor. It's like a conveyor belt. It's always moving and it's bringing you happiness and distress. Detaching yourself from material happiness and distress means detaching yourself from time. What an advantageous position. When you become timeless, then you become peaceful. And everyone wants to be around peaceful persons. A peaceful person is not harassed by time. Although time is moving, the real devotee is immune to time. Because as soon as you submit to time, you are drowning in happiness and distress, because that's what time is bringing to you. How do you break that cycle of time rotating you through different bodies and presenting you with different happinesses and distresses according to your karma? That's what an intelligent person thinks. Real intelligence, Buddha yoga, is synonymous with bhakti yoga. We have so much information. And if we're fortunate, we have the association of those who are seeking to apply that information. Just this point alone of not taking happiness and distress seriously. It's so foundational. You can never be truly peaceful or happy as long as you're caught up in the flow of material happiness and distress. And that flow is driven by time. You'll remain imprisoned within material nature. If we can develop our spiritual intelligence, we can rise above material nature. We don't want to be illusioned by material nature. We don't want to be entrapped by the material body. We have better things to do. In this chapter, Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. You're seeing how, indeed, everything is interrelated. All aspects of material existence are interrelated. People today are talking about that. The unity of life, the unity of the environment, the unity of all living entities. But what is the ultimate link? What's the axis which everything else is linked to? It's not enough to see interrelationships. That's important in science, ordinary science. It's important in good politics, how everyone can live together. It's important in good environmentalism to see how all the aspects of the biosphere work together. But unless you know the central link, unless you know the axis, you miss the point of life. So Bhagavad Gita is taking you beyond just understanding the unity. Often you'll meet persons who are so caught up in the unity approach, which is true. We should see all life as one. We should see all human beings as one. We should see the environment as one. We should learn how to overlook the self and just sacrifice the ego in every situation. This is only a preliminary phase, though. What does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? Brahma bhuta prasanatma nasochati nakamshati samatsarveshu bhuteshu padbhaktim pate. Krishna describes that unity phase, if the genuine unity phase, that is, not just some sentiment. The genuine unity phase is preliminary. It's the Brahma bhuta platform. Samatsarveshu bhuteshu. You see all living entities as equal. Nasochati nakamshati. You're no longer affected by the mental ways of happiness and distress. And then Krishna concludes, on that level, you can now begin devotional service. So bhakti is taking you beyond ordinary unity, beyond ordinary appreciation of the interrelatedness of life. We accept that, yes. It is an improvement to want to see the unity of all living entities, the unity of life, the unity of existence. But you'll never truly see that unity unless you understand the source of the unity. That's why we are Krishna focused. The Krishna focus is beyond the unity focus. The unity focus, the genuine unity focus, is only a preliminary phase. People want peace, they want harmony. They cannot get it until they understand the source of all harmony, the source of all unity. Bhagavatam is preparing you for the 10th canto, where you see that the source of all unity is the best child, the best friend, the best master, the best lover. The personal aspects that we relish so much in material existence are there because everything emanates from Krishna, and Krishna is the source of all personal aspects, all personal flavors. Our ultimate goal is not to extinguish the ego, but to revive our real ego. so that we're serving Krishna, playing with Krishna, dressing Krishna, dancing with Krishna. That is real ego. How much does that mean to you? Each individual has to decide how serious you are. So yes, while you're within the prison, you don't have to torture yourself. You make a best solution as you can for living in the prison. But don't make that living in the prison your real goal in life. Your real goal is outside the prison. To accomplish that requires intelligence. You know the example, at least you know from American movies, about the jailhouse lawyer. Everyone knows the term, the jailhouse lawyer. It's a smart prisoner who feels wrongly imprisoned, or feels that there was some defect in the legal procedure that put him in prison. So while he's in prison, he studies law. Yeah, you've seen that in the movie, right? Yeah, I know. Suddenly no one watches movies. While he's in prison, he studies law. And then he can analyze his own legal situation. And in some countries, in the USA at least, the prisoner can negotiate that, look, I've studied the law books, here is the proper thing that should have happened, it didn't happen. And he'll be actually taken seriously because he's become qualified. He knows how to manipulate the legal system. So instead of just being in prison, hopeless and helpless, even trying to enjoy in prison, he's using his time for studying how to get out of prison. That is intelligence. From the ordinary point of view. We're trying to develop the Buddhi Yoga, the intelligence of Bhakti. We're using this life to get back to our normal life. And that goal is progressively achieved. You'll see confirmation along the way. Especially if you always remain in the association of devotees. Despite inconveniences, despite misunderstandings, despite sometimes you feel you don't get enough appreciation for all the intense service that you're doing. If you remain in the thick of the association of devotees, you'll so easily see confirmation about the goal and how you're achieving it. In kirtan, for example, kirtan requires association with devotees. You have realization that Krishna is his name. You have realization that you're Krishna's servant. The more you allow yourself to be absorbed in the kirtan, the more you feel your spiritual identity confirmed. If you just take the kirtan as some religious performance or ritual, you'll still benefit, but not as much as when you totally invest in the kirtan. Totally invest in hearing and chanting about Krishna. You get confirmation. Confirmation, so much so that Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur says, within the kirtan, the congregational chanting, you will eventually perceive your original identity in relationship to Krishna. It happens within the kirtan. And only then can you consider going off on your own for solitary bhajan, solitary chanting about Krishna. So this is how important the association of devotees is. It's so important that We need devotees around us chanting, because that's how we'll see our original nature, by the blessings of the Prabhupada. That is the ultimate solution to the ego problem. To see how you are serving Krishna. And as you know, or you may know from Chaitanya Charitamrita, service as the servant runs through all the rasas. So first you have to become attached to devotional service as Krishna's servant. That generic status of being Krishna's servant runs through all the rasas. Even Madhurya rasa. There's that element of being Krishna's servant. Even in Vatsalya prema, love of Krishna and parenthood, still there's that element of being Krishna's servant. The more we can aspire to be Krishna's servant and take training to be Krishna's servant, no matter what our situation, our living circumstances, the more we can do that, the more our life will be successful. And you'll see the false ego declining and the real ego reasserting itself. Then you'll be peaceful. Then you'll be happy. Any questions? Thinking deeply. Yes, it is possible. You can make spiritual advancement. It's not just religion, you know. In the ordinary sense. What does Krishna say about it? In Bhagavad Gita? Pratyaksha avagamam dharma. Direct perception you'll get. Direct perception of the real ego. That's beginning right now. It's not that you have to wait until you know what rasa you have in Krishna, and only then will you make spiritual advancement. No, right now you are experiencing that you are Krishna's servant. That's the foundation of all the rasas. I am Krishna's servant. How can I serve Krishna today? That's great spiritual advancement. We want to thrive in devotional service and the association of devotees. According to your ashram, there'll be different styles for how to do that, but still, that's what we want. The more we thrive in the association of devotees, the more we relish hearing and chanting about Krishna in the association of devotees, the more you'll see verification that you're making spiritual advancement. Sometimes there'll be dry periods. Who do you blame for that? Oh, Krishna, what's happening? Why are you doing this to me? The dry periods are due to our own conditioning, due to our own mind. And when those dry periods come in spiritual life, don't blame Krishna, don't blame the devotees. Take it as an opportunity to invest more. And then you'll get more realization. Even the materialists say, as I often point out, a crisis is an opportunity. So when you encounter some dry spell in your spiritual life, you should know how to take advantage of it. This is a great opportunity to teach myself that if I increase the spiritual quality of my life, I'll be back on track again, and in fact, I'll come out better. You take a crisis in that way. You take a dry spell in your spiritual life in that way. That's proper use of your intelligence. Yes?
Now you said how there's this false false ego, and there is this desire for recognition. So, how while we are while I am in a neophyte stage, in a conditioned state, how do we take the glorification of devotees, and how do we glorify others, keeping that in mind that they might get attached to the glorification, might cause them to...
As Bhaktivedanta sings in his song Guru Day, whatever good qualities I have, they're all coming from you. Personally, I have no good qualities of my own. Your good qualities are all I am made of. We want to have some realization of that. Of course, in the beginning, in the neophyte stage, you always hear all the time, Prabhu, it's all your mercy. By your mercy. That's nice to say that, but gradually you'll appreciate the real significance to that. We don't want to condemn devotees for saying that. We would lose almost all our devotees then. It's all your mercy, Prabhu. By your mercy. But we want to get full realization of that. And that will happen in time. You can actually start to see how devotees are benefiting you. Rather than just say it's all your mercy. You actually start to see it happening. Devotees have so many different perspectives and all being used in Krishna's service. It is so glorious. It is so wonderful. So if someone is appreciating something you did, you take it that they're glorifying the source of whatever good qualities they may think they see in you. And yes, we should glorify other devotees. Bearing in mind that you are glorifying Krishna. The devotees are most dear to Krishna. We have to know how to glorify devotees, and we have to know how to receive glorification. It takes a while. These are devotional arts, devotional skills. It's exciting to learn them. Please remember that because of the false ego, you're seeing the world a certain way. If we want to experience the real world, we must revive the real ego as Krishna's servants. That is possible. It's happening right now, and you can accelerate the process. Be aware of the impediments and be aware of the accelerators. Bhakti is for real. It's the real world. Even in this dense darkness of the age of Kali, we have a chance to be the most real. We have the chance to be genuine. We can get out of prison in just this one lifetime. That choice is ours. We've already achieved the greatest fortune by coming in contact with Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan. Now, how do we deal with that great fortune? That is the question. The sun is shining on everyone, relatively speaking. But if you put an umbrella over your head and shield yourself from the sun, or if you stay inside all the time and don't go out in the sun, that's your choice. But the sun of Lord Chaitanya's mercy is shining everywhere. We want to take advantage of it. That is genuine success.